Welcome back to the Gold IRA Blueprint podcast.
Hmm.
Today we are taking a deep dive into something that's probably top of mind for a lot of you.
Mm-hmm.
How to use a gold IRA to build a tax-efficient inheritance strategy.
Right.
I mean, passing on wealth and making sure your loved ones actually get to enjoy it
Right.
can be complicated.
It can.
But that's why we're here to kind of unpack it all.
Exactly.
And hey, if you want a head start on choosing the right gold IRA company,
Yes.
grab our free checklist at goldirablueprint.com/exclusive.
That's right. We are going to explore some smart strategies that can make a real difference in how much of your hard-earned savings actually ends up in your heirs' pockets.
Okay, so let's jump right in.
Yeah.
When we talk about a tax-efficient inheritance, what are we really trying to avoid here?
Well, think of it this way. You spend a lifetime building your nest egg, including your gold IRA,
Right.
but without careful planning, a big chunk of that could end up going to the IRS instead of your loved ones.
Oh, yeah.
That's where understanding the tax implications of inheriting a gold IRA becomes absolutely crucial.
Yeah, nobody wants to give more to the IRS than they have to, right?
Absolutely not.
So taxes are the villain in this story.
You could say that.
What are the specific tax traps we need to be aware of when it comes to inheriting a gold IRA?
One of the biggest ones is required minimum distributions, or RMDs,
Okay.
thanks to the Secure Act 2.0. Non-spouse beneficiaries have to fully distribute an inherited IRA within 10 years.
Okay.
Now imagine your heirs suddenly having to take large distributions,
Yeah.
potentially pushing them into a higher tax bracket.
Oh, wow.
That's a scenario we want to help them avoid.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So timing is everything. It's not just about inheriting the gold. It's about how those distributions are managed to minimize the tax hit.
Absolutely.
What else do we need to be mindful of?
Estate taxes are another key consideration.
Okay.
Your gold IRA, just like any other asset, contributes to the total value of your estate. And while the federal estate tax exemption is pretty generous for 2025 at $12.92 million per person,
Wow.
or double that for couples, any amount exceeding that threshold could be subject to estate tax.
So even with a healthy exemption, it's crucial to consider how a gold IRA fits into the bigger picture of estate planning.
It is.
Are there any strategies to protect assets, especially if they might exceed that exemption limit?
Absolutely. There are some clever legal tools we can use.
Okay.
One option is setting up an irrevocable trust.
Okay.
Now, I know irrevocable sounds a bit scary.
It does.
But think of it as creating a separate legal entity to hold and manage assets for your beneficiaries.
So it's like putting those assets in a protective bubble, shielding them from estate taxes.
Exactly. And it gets even more interesting with an irrevocable trust. You can actually dictate how and when those assets are distributed to your heirs,
Oh, wow.
potentially minimizing their tax liability over time. For instance, you could specify distributions during years when they might be in a lower tax bracket.
That level of control is impressive.
It is.
I'm starting to see how powerful these tools can be.
Hmm?
But I have to admit, the world of trusts can feel pretty complex.
Yeah, it can be.
Are there different types of irrevocable trusts that might be particularly well suited for a gold IRA inheritance?
You're right. It can get nuanced, but that's why we're here to break it down.
Exactly.
When it comes to gold IRAs, two types of irrevocable trusts often stand out: grantor trusts and dynasty trusts.
Okay.
A grantor trust allows you, as the grantor, to retain some control over the assets while still removing them from your taxable estate. This can be beneficial for managing investment decisions related to the gold IRA.
Interesting. So it offers a bit of a hybrid approach,
Yeah.
balancing control with tax benefits.
What about dynasty trusts? What makes them unique?
Dynasty trusts are designed for long-term, multi-generational wealth transfer.
Okay.
They can help your assets avoid estate taxes, not only for your children, but potentially for your grandchildren and beyond.
Wow, that's thinking generations ahead.
It is. It sounds like these trusts offer some serious advantages,
Huh.
but I'm guessing there are also some trade-offs to consider.
You're spot on. While irrevocable trusts provide significant tax advantages and control the trade-off, is that once you set them up, they're generally very difficult to modify.
Okay.
So it's essential to work with experienced professionals to make sure the trust is structured correctly from the outset, aligning with your long-term goals.
That makes sense. These decisions have lasting implications, so getting expert guidance is crucial.
Absolutely.
Now, we've talked about RMDs and estate taxes, but are there any other tax implications specific to inheriting a gold IRA that we should have on our radar?
Yes, we need to touch on capital gains tax.
Okay.
This applies specifically to physical gold held within an IRA when it's withdrawn. It's taxed at ordinary income tax rates, not the more favorable capital gains rate. So there's a potential for a higher tax bill for your beneficiaries if they inherit physical gold.
That's a critical point.
Right.
So choosing the right assets within the gold IRA can have a big impact on the tax burden for your heirs. Are there any specific types of gold that are more advantageous from a tax perspective?
Absolutely. To stay compliant with IRS regulations and maintain those precious tax benefits, it's crucial to choose IRS-approved gold coins or bars for your IRA.
Okay, so no stashing those gold nuggets you found panning in your backyard.
Right.
But speaking of IRS rules,
Yep.
I think it's a good time to remind our listeners about a resource we offer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for help navigating the ins and outs of choosing the right file, Gold IRA Company, one that's reputable and follows all the IRS guidelines, head over to goldirablueprint.com/exclusive. You'll find a free checklist that can guide you through the process.
That's a great resource.
Back to those capital gains implications. It's important to remember that when you choose IRS-approved gold coins or bars, you're not only staying compliant,
Right.
but also potentially simplifying the tax situation for your heirs.
Absolutely.
That's a win-win.
It is.
So we've covered RMDs, estate taxes, capital gains tax, and the importance of choosing IRS-approved assets. It sounds like there's a lot to think about when structuring a gold IRA inheritance to minimize those tax burdens.
There is.
Are there any other smart strategies we can employ?
You bet, and that's what we'll delve into next. But before we move on, I want to emphasize that these tax implications can vary depending on individual circumstances and evolving tax laws.
Good point. So while we're providing valuable insights, it's always wise to consult with tax and financial advisors who can offer personalized guidance.
Exactly. Now let's explore some of those powerful strategies that can help maximize the benefits of your gold IRA for your loved ones. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit and look at some proactive strategies you can use to really optimize your gold IRA for inheritance.
Okay.
Remember those charitable remainder trusts, or CRTs, we touched on earlier?
Yes.
They offer kind of a fascinating way to blend philanthropy with your legacy planning.
Yeah, CRTs seem like a unique approach. Can you remind us how they work
Sure.
and why they might be a good fit for someone looking to pass on a gold IRA?
Of course, with the CRT, you're essentially creating a trust that provides income to your chosen beneficiaries, perhaps your children or grandchildren for a certain predetermined period of time. Then after that period, the remaining assets in the trust are donated to a charity that you've designated.
So it's like creating a win-win scenario.
Yeah.
Your loved ones receive financial support,
Right.
and a cause you care about
Yeah.
ultimately benefits as well.
Exactly.
What's the advantage from a tax perspective?
That's where it gets really interesting by structuring your gold IRA inheritance through a CRT. You're potentially eligible for a pretty significant estate tax deduction. This can be a really powerful way to reduce the overall tax burden on your estate, leaving more for both your heirs and your chosen charity.
That's a compelling incentive.
Yeah.
It seems like CRTs offer a way to align your financial legacy with your philanthropic goals while also being smart about taxes. Are there any other strategies that can help minimize the tax bite for our heirs?
Definitely. Let's talk about Roth IRA conversions.
Okay.
Now, you might typically associate Roth IRAs with retirement planning. Right.
But they can be a game changer for inheritance as well.
Okay. I'm intrigued. How do Roth IRAs factor into an inheritance strategy?
Well, with a traditional gold IRA, your distributions in retirement are taxed as ordinary income.
Okay.
But with a Roth IRA, those distributions are tax-free.
Oh, wow.
And guess what? That tax-free status extends to your beneficiaries as well.
So by converting a traditional gold IRA to a Roth IRA, you're essentially prepaying the taxes, giving your heirs a tax-free inheritance. That's a powerful move. But I'm guessing it's not quite that simple. Are there any downsides or costs associated with Roth conversions?
You're right. It's important to weigh the pros and cons. The main consideration is that you'll have to pay taxes on the amount you convert in the year you do it.
Okay.
So there's an upfront tax cost. But for many people, especially those who anticipate being in a higher tax bracket in the future, the long-term benefits of tax-free withdrawals for themselves and their heirs can outweigh that upfront cost.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's about strategically managing your tax liability over time.
And speaking of taxes, we have to remember that it's not just federal taxes we need to consider, right?
Yeah.
State taxes can also play a significant role, especially when it comes to inheritance.
Absolutely. State tax laws can have a huge impact on how much of your gold IRA inheritance your beneficiaries actually get to keep.
Wow.
Some states like California have high income tax rates, while others like Florida have no state income tax at all.
That's a massive difference. So the state where your beneficiaries live
Hmm.
could significantly affect their tax liability on an inherited IRA.
Mm,
Are there any strategies to mitigate the impact of state taxes?
that's a great question. One option is to consider the residency of your beneficiaries when making decisions about your gold IRA and your overall estate plan.
Uh-huh.
For example, if you have the flexibility to choose where you retire,
Yeah.
you might consider a state with more favorable tax laws for IRA inheritance.
The strategic thinking.
Yeah.
It highlights how interconnected all these decisions can be.
Hmm.
Choosing a retirement destination isn't just about lifestyle. It can also have significant financial implications for your legacy.
Precisely. And it's not just about where you live. It's also about proactively managing distributions from an inherited gold IRA. Remember those RMDs we talked about?
Right.
Well, if your beneficiaries are in a high income tax state, it might be beneficial to structure distributions in a way that minimizes their tax burden.
Yeah.
For example, they could take smaller distributions over several years, potentially keeping them in a lower tax bracket.
That's a smart way to leverage those 10 years they have to distribute the inherited IRA.
Hmm.
It's all about making those distributions work in their favor.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and taking control.
I like it.
And remember, knowledge is power when it comes to navigating these complex issues. That's why resources like the free checklist we offer at Gold IRA, blueprint.com/exclusive, can be so valuable. It can help you start asking the right questions and making informed decisions about your Gold IRA and your legacy.
Absolutely. It's a great tool for anyone looking to dive deeper into the world of gold IRAs and make sure they're on the right track.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground here, from irrevocable trusts and CRTs to Roth conversions and state tax considerations, but there's one more crucial aspect of Gold IRA inheritance that we need to discuss.
I'm all ears. What haven't we covered yet? You mentioned one more crucial aspect of gold IRA inheritance.
Yes, it's the importance of compliance with IRS regulations.
Right.
We've talked about all these incredible tax advantages of Gold IRAs, but, those benefits hinge on following the rules, and when it comes to inheritance, compliance becomes even more crucial.
Okay, so we don't want to jeopardize those tax benefits for our heirs by making any missteps.
Right.
What are the key IRS regulations we need to be aware of in the context of inheritance?
One of the most important is ensuring that the gold held within the IRA meets IRS requirements.
Okay.
Not just any gold can be included. It has to be IRS-approved high-purity gold coins or bars.
I see.
Think American Gold Eagles, Canadian Gold Maple Leafs, that sort of thing.
So no sentimental gold jewelry or family heirlooms.
Unfortunately, not sticking to IRS-approved bullion is essential for maintaining the tax advantage status of the IRA.
Yeah.
And remember, this applies even when the IRA is inherited. Your beneficiaries will need to continue adhering to those same rules.
That makes sense. Are there any other compliance aspects we should keep in mind?
Yes, custodial and storage requirements are critical.
Okay.
A gold IRA has to be held by an IRS-approved custodian,
Mm-hmm.
which is a financial institution that specializes in managing these types of accounts, and the physical gold itself needs to be stored in an IRS-compliant depository.
So no stashing those gold bars under the mattress.
Right.
But seriously, why are these custodial and storage rules so important?
They're crucial for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
First, they provide a layer of security and accountability. A reputable custodian and depository will ensure that your gold is properly insured and protected. But more importantly, these rules are designed to prevent self-dealing and maintain the integrity of the IRA's tax advantage status. If you try to store the gold yourself or use a non-compliant facility, you could face penalties and lose those valuable tax benefits.
That's a risk we definitely want to avoid.
Yeah.
It sounds like choosing the right custodian and depository is a critical decision. What should people look for when making those choices?
You're right. It's a decision that shouldn't be taken lightly. You want to look for a custodian with a solid reputation, experience in managing gold IRAs, and excellent customer service transparency is also key. They should be upfront about their fees and provide clear information about storage options.
Those are great points. And speaking of making informed decisions, I want to remind our listeners about a resource we offer that can help with this process. Head over to Gold IRA blueprint.com/exclusive to download our free checklist. It's packed with tips for choosing a reputable gold IRA company, including questions to ask about custodians and storage options.
That checklist is a fantastic resource. It can save people a lot of time and potential headaches.
Absolutely. Now, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored the tax implications of inheriting a gold IRA, delved into smart strategies like irrevocable trusts, CRTs, and Roth conversions, and emphasized the importance of IRS compliance. It's clear that building a tax-efficient inheritance strategy with a gold IRA requires careful planning and attention to detail.
You're absolutely right. It's not a set it and forget it type of situation. But the good news is that by being proactive and informed, you can ensure that your hard-earned wealth is protected and passed on to your loved ones in a way that minimizes their tax burden.
That's a powerful message. So as we wrap up our deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is don't wait to start planning your legacy. The sooner you start exploring your options, the more control you'll have over how your wealth is managed and ultimately passed on to your heirs. Take advantage of the resources available, like our free checklist, and don't hesitate to seek guidance from experienced professionals who can help you navigate the complexities of gold IRAs and inheritance planning.
That's great advice. And remember, knowledge is power. The more you understand about gold IRAs and the strategies available, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions that benefit both you and your loved ones.
Absolutely. It's all about empowering yourself to create a lasting legacy.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into gold IRA inheritance strategies. We hope you found it valuable. And don't forget to visit goldirablueprint.com/exclusive for that free checklist and more helpful resources.
Until next time, happy investing.